All right. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of B2TEA. This is, I think, episode 9, and we actually have a really fun one today because we are going to talk about partying, which is something that everyone loves to do. But in a work context, that can get kind of weird. So what we're basically going to try to run through is like, look, how can you create a work party that is fun for everyone involved while, remaining professional, moving business forward, that sort of thing. I know that sales gets a reputation for being the fun ones, but I kind of want to prove that marketing can do it just as well as sales can. So it's a little bit timely because, as Melanie knows, Melanie was there. We had a grand kickoff event for the opening event in Atlanta. And from all accounts, it went pretty well. Everyone had a good time. Is that true, Mel?
Yeah, everyone agreed that our recent grand opening event was a grand success. So yeah, it took a lot of careful planning and event coordination. We did it all on our own with some internal admin teams and marketing team to put it together. And how we started is, so we had a clear idea of what we were doing. We wanted to celebrate our grand opening. And so that meant that we wanted our invitee list to include, members of local government, technological partners, our board, and our employees, across the globe. So we had a two-pronged approach at getting invitations sent out. We sent kind of an email blast where we basically emailed everyone that we wanted to attend. And then we sent some personalized emails to people that we particularly hoped would come and see us there, and entice them with the possibility of food, beverages, and networking.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the value prop. You show up, we will feed you, you will have good drinks, and you will be able to, meet people, network. And I presume that that was a fun time. Those three things.
So one of the things that I really liked about our party was that we used a lot of local vendors. We used a very cool catering company called Fancy Pantry, and they just made a absolutely gorgeous spread of food, little finger foods for people to eat. So you don't want things to be too complicated. You want people to be able to mix and mingle. We made sure to get a wide selection of some of Georgia's finest craft brew beers, sticking below that 6% ABV to keep everybody in check, but variety of pilsners and IPAs and lagers, and a fantastic. I really hope this is it. Balloon vendor called Balloons Over Atlanta that made very cool branded balloon decorations. So I think that was part of creating an excellent ambiance for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah. If you're trying to rank, what the most important things for throwing one of these, you would have to say, like, again, obviously who's attending is probably the most important. You got to figure out what your audience is, who you need to be there, and then creating like a space for them to be able to interact in the way that you need them to interact in, right? So from what I've heard, like what we were trying to do was just like, again, create space for people to sort of like organically chat, organically talk about things when we weren't having, a ribbon cutting ceremony or whatnot. So when you can kind of think through, right? Because you could obviously have an event at a bar and it could totally be great. You could have an event in a restaurant. In this case, the purpose was opening an office. So obviously you got to have it in the office. So making sure that space is welcoming and that people walk in and like, hey, this is one place I want to be, and room flows work well.
So yeah, another part of event planning is, creating a good run sheet of events. This is one of the the first things we did is, we started with the basics, what was the date and time and location. And then we carefully mapped out the schedule, assigned responsibilities for each phase of the event, and, communicated to everyone involved. How are we going to get the people here? How are we going to help anyone that's early or late or lost? And I think that was part of creating a very smooth event.
Yeah, definitely. You do have to like put a lot of thought into the transition process, like how you're going to go from event to event, what that's going to look like. If you're going to have a meeting with an address, you probably don't want to put that just after lunch. You probably want to put that before or during lunch type of thing. Because if people have just gone from socializing and having a good time and drinking a little to like listening to something long, the likelihood that they'll pay attention is much lower. So you gotta have to put those in. Something I will say is I am a really big fan of the standing cocktail table. Every party I've been at, the professional party with a standing cocktail table has allowed professionals to like kind of do like the leaning thing where you kind of like exchange up something pleasant and you take a little hors d'oeuvre and then you like go on, and it's fantastic. Absolutely wonderful.
Standing cocktail table, yeah, essential for any party. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's great.
Totally agree. And the benefit of a standing cocktail table as well, especially if you have multiple, is it spreads people out and keeps them from because that's one thing that I think is pretty important to navigate when you're planning the space out, especially if you're doing something like trying to make an office an event space. You want to think about how are you going to get the flow of traffic and how are you going to prevent people from clogging the way to the food and drink, because people will kind of naturally, unless you direct them otherwise, just collect in that area, and then you'll have people who are like, I can't get to the food, I can't get to the drink.
Right. And also they're like smaller tables. They're not as big as like the sit-downy tables. So you have like one person or two people who you're talking to, which is a much more manageable conversation, which is nice because it's more personable, but also like people who aren't inclined to speak up in a crowd full of 6 or 10 people can still like feel like they're socializing.
Yeah, I think that they are socializing and they don't even just feel like it. They're actually getting that social interaction.
Sorry, okay. They're socializing and they don't feel intimidated as they're socializing.
There we go. Yeah, the ideal conversation size at these things is probably 3 to 4 is my guess, right? You want to create space for any sort of cocktail hour for groups of 3 to 4 people to congregate in various sections. And I like the standing cocktail table because it feels more casual. Like you can walk up to it and walk away from it. It's not like I have to like pull out a chair and sit down. And then it's like, hey, seating, is it not? There's none of that like drama at a cocktail table. It's just what happens organically happens.
Yeah, so in addition to that, I think that also the formality of the event is something that has to like work with whatever work culture you're at. Because I know that, for example, museums run on a very tight budget, right? But the people who donate to museums are like relatively like wealthy and connected people. So I've always been really interested in the way that museums will put on like parties and galas and fundraisers where they're on a very tight budget trying to curate a space for like people who kind of expect a certain standard of like quality food and drink and like a really, really good party. Yeah, I've watched my parents try to put some of them on because they both work in nonprofits. And something I will say is, one, they do use the standing cocktail table every time. And two, whatever space they're in, they always have to make sure that the people know where to park and they know like where to come in, and they have like someone escorting you in. And then most of the time, if it's a fancy party, you'll have someone take coats and stuff like that. So just kind of directing the flow of traffic is pretty good. And then also like just if you're actually trying to throw a party where you're trying to get money out of people, you do have to like emotionally prepare your employees to actually go up and talk to people and like, oh, that person's alone right now. That person can't be standing at this party alone. So you have to like have like feelers that are like, okay, I'll go talk to this person right now. You go talk to that person. So it's very coordinated. They're very good at it.
Yeah, the purpose of a party being getting people in a room, sending out a message, raising money, definitely feels like you have to think about the order of events really hard at that point, right? Like, do you ask for front? Do you ask for money 2/3 of the way in? Do you ask for money at the end of the night? Like, I could see arguments for those last two easily. I don't know if anyone has opinions about that. But like at what point, like in the most important like moment in your event, like when you want your key message, where should that occur? Is because you obviously want, like, you don't want to front load your event with like the most fun things and then have the stuff that might be a little bit, as we were talking, like, hey, you can't like have people get drinks and socialize and then put them through, you know, a 2-hour talk or something. But you can definitely put them through a talk and then have a cocktail hour where they socialize. But then if you're trying to raise money, like, or if you're whatever that like moment is, that the key moment, where do you place that?
I think for me, when it comes to office events and parties, um, getting situated, having coordination, like what Jean Marie was talking about, coordinating people through the event and getting well adjusted. And I think about like maybe in the 15-30 minute mark when everyone is already settled, kind of mingled around a bit, is when to start like the evening festivities. What do you guys think?
No, I was just saying, you're suggesting like, you know, a little 15-30 minute ramp up main event and then almost maybe like a cool down event, something where people can, you know, have a little bit of a chiller time, leave if they want, stay if they want, kind of thing.
Room for socialization, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I would say is that I think that most people who attend these parties anticipate that money is going to be part of the conversation, because you normally are attending a party like this, understanding that like you're going to be involved in this group. And I think that generally the best time is just after the organization talks about all of its accomplishments. You know, like we just created this huge program to engage, you know, kids in science, and we have this awesome like Girls for STEM program, and it impacted the lives of 342 girls. And by the way, we need a new exhibit, so can you guys help us curate this exhibit? And if you help us curate this exhibit, you can help us pick these things. And then they're like, oh, I get to make my mark on this program. So that's how it works.
Yeah, absolutely. So Melanie, we served beer. Did we serve any other kinds of alcohol?
Wine.
Beer and wine.
Yep. Cocktails can be nice, and there's definitely nothing. It's just a little bit more of an investment. Just a little bit more of an investment. You know, if you have like if you're going to be hanging out for many hours, you know, you may have a different drink selection than if people are only going to be there for 2 to 3 hours and then going to be expected to leave and go somewhere else.
Would you do the cocktail for the short party or the long party?
Or probably the longer party.
Okay. Why?
Just because people have more time to have drinks.
Yeah.
And enjoy the drink.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sort of with you, but I think the reason that I'm with you is that to have cocktails, you probably need to have a bartender.
Yeah.
And a bar. And then you usually don't want to be like, hey, come in for 2 hours, make drinks for 2 hours, right? Like it ends up it's more cost effective, like, hey, come in for a 4 or 5 hour chunk. I don't know if that's like just like cultural or if there's a reason for that. That's the way it seems. And then they end up are also the ones that like, hey, can I have a beer? Can I have a glass of wine? And they'll pour it for you and whatnot. So if you have a longer event, then I think you end up like being able to justify the expense of having some sort of bar a little bit easier. And then obviously if you're having it at a place that serves food and alcohol, then often, you know, they have their own standards or their own like set small menu of, hey, you're having an event here, we can do these 4 cocktails and this kind of wine and this kind of beer, versus like we were hosting our own event, so it's a different type of thing of bringing somebody in.
Exactly.
So were we like, was there like somebody who was serving beer and wine, or was it just like serve yourself, or what was the deal with that?
Yeah, it was a serve yourself situation.
And that worked with wine.
Nice. What were the cups? Were they plastic or were they glass?
We did just have kind of your, they're kind of fancy little plastic cups.
Okay.
You know, I don't know if you've seen those that have that kind of chiselly effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're for the wine, and then regular solo cups.
They were like
for
a
the beer.
hard plastic. They weren't like the floppy plastic.
Exactly.
The kind that you can go bloop, bloop, bloop. Okay, cool. Yeah. That's
So
good.
wait, people were pouring beers into solo cups?
Yes.
Oh.
I mean, they were clear solo cups.
Was it from
They
a
weren't
keg?
the cool red solo cups that tempt everyone into a game of beer pong.
If a Movius event ever devolves into beer pong, I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I'd win, but other than that, I don't know what I'd do.
I feel like it could easily happen though,
Maybe.
because we do have a
Yeah,
ping pong table.
You do have a ping pong table. That's true. That's so funny. Oh my gosh, I can't.
Stop implanting ideas in my head.
Yeah. No, actually, I was super impressed with how much fun those parties were at Greece. Like we didn't have parties, we had dinners, okay? But I
Okay.
was super impressed with like how like we had been in meetings literally from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. and then we would walk to a restaurant and eat dinner together. And I like when I thought about this, I was like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna be so tired. It's not gonna be fun at all. And I went and like everyone was super vivacious. And I'm pretty sure that some people were really, really tired. But like I think that a lot of people at Movius were like just like really personable and fun to talk to, and the like the meals were really good, but also like the event was really fun, you know.
I just gonna agree with you. I think that sort of dynamic, the walk to a restaurant after long meetings, worked really well because it kind of like took us all out of the context that we were just in and gave us something to like kind of like focus on, but also be able to talk, right? Like John did a great job of selecting menus, and like food was coming in waves, and you could get drinks, and like you could talk about the food. You could then transition that into like other conversations with people. If you didn't want to talk, you had something to do as well. So I think that sort of event works really, really well. If you're all in a space and you're all tired, then just like switching up the context like that totally works. Whereas if you're bringing everybody in for like, a set period of time, then you end up with a party that's like more like, hey, we're going to have our own space, but bringing somebody to a cool spot. And it helped that we were in Athens, right? Like everyone's new to everyone. So you kind of have that like a little bit of adrenaline. But like I was absolutely shattered, exhausted that week. But again, you do what you got to do.
It definitely was pretty fun in terms of like the amount of like opportunities you had to like do your thing or go or places. Also, like it was cool that you were able to bring whoever came to Greece with you, you know? Like that was really fun. But in general, I think that parties work as long as every single person is like feeling like they have to be in the party, if that makes sense. It doesn't even have to be that like everyone wants to be at the party, but if everyone just kind of like accepts that they have to be at the party and they have to do their best to be social, then the party will function. Because you can always like tell if someone's trying their best. You can, even if they say something awkward, even if it's a little weird or there's like some pauses. If someone's trying their best, you can make the conversation work, and like it works. It always works.
Erika, have you been to a corporate event that you were just like, wow, this isn't, or wow, this was terrible?
I haven't been to an event, but I have set up for an event. I used to be a receptionist, so I would set up company offsites. So bringing in bagels, coffee, setting up the space to make it look pretty. And there were times where I would filter throughout, but it's quite cool to see like people mingle and like build relationships and connections in a space where, we all like work at.
But I think that, Erika, it would be really fun to go to a corporate event with you. I feel like that would be fun because I feel like you would be able to offer like a fresh perspective to a lot of conversations. So,
Guys, are we ready for this activity? We're ready?
Woo!
Okay. So I'm gonna explain the way this is gonna work. And how this is gonna work is I'm gonna pick one of you, and we're gonna start. Let's start with Jane Marie. So I'm gonna ask Jane questions. Okay. Erika and Melanie, you cannot listen to the questions or at Jane Marie's answers. Okay. So I'm gonna need you guys to kind of like plug your ears, mute your mics, and then I'll give you the thumbs up when I'm ready for you guys. All right. And then we're gonna go through and I'm gonna do that to each of you. Each of you have 3 questions that you answer. All right. So Melanie and Erika, you guys can't hear me anymore? Give me the thumbs up when you're ready. Cool. All right, Jam. Here's my 3 questions for you. I need you to choose a recovery activity. Think like brunch, a museum, yoga, nature.
swimming at a beach.
Great. Okay, I need you to choose a food, like a dinner food.
Tacos with the authentic corn tortillas.
And I need you to choose a speaker, like a guest speaker.
Okay. Simon Sinek.
You ready for your 3 questions? I feel like the troll on the bridge in Monty Python. Melanie, I'm going to need you to choose a city.
All right, a city near the ocean, Outer Banks, North Carolina.
I need you to choose a specified amount of PTO days. It's like 3, 1, 0, 10.
12.
Okay. Cool. And then the last thing I need you to choose is an audience.
State, local, and education. That's my
Okay.
audience.
Erika, are you ready for your 3 questions?
Yes,
Okay. Are you sure? Great.
I hope so.
All right, Erika, your 3 questions are, I need you to choose an alcohol.
A White Claw.
Okay, great. I need you to choose a venue. Think restaurant, bar, hotel, conference center, etc.
A venue. It could be like an event space, right? Like,
Yeah.
Like a ballroom event space.
Okay. Great. And lastly, I need you to choose like a time frame. Think like a 7 p.m. to 12 p.m. Whatever, that kind of.
Maybe 4 to 8.
4 to 8. Great. All right. Okay. So as I'm sure you probably guessed, I've designed the Ideal Movius Marketing Party based on your answers in a Mad Lib style format, and I'm going to organize them real quick, and then I will read you what our ideal party is.
I adore Mad Libs.
You adore Mad Libs? Dude, It was actually kind of fun coming up with one, I'm not gonna lie. Are you guys ready to hear the Ideal Movius Marketing Party event of the century?
We're ready.
So for the Ideal Movius Marketing Party, we will be descending upon the lovely city of Outer Banks, North Carolina. We have invited all of our state, local, and prospects, and most of them have made the trek. We have picked out a lovely ballroom event space, and we will be serving tacos with authentic corn tortillas, and we will be drinking White Claws. We have a guest speaker, Mr. Simon Sinek, and we will be raging from 4 to 8 p.m., which is relatively reasonable. We will follow up this event with some recovery of swimming at the beach, 12 days of PTO. So hopefully that is a compelling case to our bosses that is the event that we need to throw. Some of that is going to be very expensive. Some of that is not going to be. It's a great mix. All of the money we spend on Simon Sinek will be able to pay back by serving White Claws. Let's put it that way.
That's fantastic. I like the 12 days of PTO at the end. That's about.
Shout out, Melanie. I honestly do love the mix of just tacos with authentic corn tortillas. What are we pairing that with? White Claw. I love that. Genuinely.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, where is Outer Banks, North Carolina? What is that? What is that?
Well, it's a nice little beach featuring a lot of great, wildlife, turtles hang out there, and it's just a quaint little touristy little beach.
Nice.
Ideal. Perfect.
Yeah.
Very
All right.
solid.
Well, good work, everyone. Really,
I do think
really
Miami might have been better with the White Claws, but
Gosh.
No, we got the turtles.
All right.
All right. This has been another wonderful episode of B2TEA. Thank you all for watching. As always, you can subscribe to us here on our YouTube channel, check us out on Instagram or LinkedIn, or see us on our website, www.movius.ai. Thank you, everyone.